So the cake has been freezing for some time, not so much, but you can see here the shape. I'm just pressing down and then you can see the nose shape is not changing much. So it's easier for me to start ganaching at the moment. I have about both these bowls are dark ganache. This one is a bit extra microwave to make it quite soft. I just want to start with quite a thin range of the ganache. So it's all the same ratio, 1 is to 2 dark chocolate. So you make the ganache if you're using chocolate, then make the ganache and then refrigerate it for about 4 hours minimum to overnight. And then when you take it out, again it is going to be quite stiff, and then you allow it to thaw to room temperature, or you could just microwave and then soften it up. Okay. So now that as I'm just going to use this up, I will refill with the ganache. So this is the one that's not been microwaved. Just check the texture, it is quite soft as well, but then the chances are that using this consistency we might end up kind of filling up the curves and then making it straight. So just to be pretty sure, we just need to use a thin ganache. I'm just going to use the same spatula. Just going to start over the body and then do a thin coat first. So just make sure you're not losing out on the curves and the places where it kind of ends, like the body ends here. You don't want to kind of make it rounded there and then make the body and the hand like an attachment. Just pay attention to the detailing that you gave when you had carved. So let me just go on with the back of the head. Anyway, the whole thing has to be ganached fully before we move on with fondant. So all the dents will be covered here, especially the ones that are not meant to be. So check out on the dents that you want to cover and soften up, especially here where we just added the cake pop mixture. All the spatula marks we could just end up smoothing. I'll show you how. So now first the goal is to cover the whole exposed cake and the Rice Krispies area with ganache and not let any of the cake exposed. Also paying attention to not lose out on the dents in cases where you've specifically worked on, and covering up the dents that are there which are not meant to be. So that will be the goal. Don't bother about the spatula marks at the moment. It's going to take a refill. soften it up, and I'm just going to add it on the hands. Now onto the legs. And here pay attention, especially this dent. Don't allow the ganache to kind of go over it and then fill up that dent, because you need that shape. So I'm just going to check the areas that are exposed. You can see, because the cake also has been freezing up for some time, the ganache is already about setting. So I'm going to go find the spots where cake is exposed. Still paying attention to the cuts. Because these are the areas you kind of need to soften up. You don't want the dents, because they were not specifically made. Just going about here to get rid of major dents that are there. So you can see the ganache is quite set, and then it is just allowing me to do a bit of smoothen up. And wherever I see cake crumbs, I'm just going to seal that part. Just doing a rough smoothing. Now I'm just going to keep at this stage the ganache where it's just been lightly smoothed out using the silicone spatula itself. So at this stage I'm just going to put it in the fridge and then get back with a bowl of hot water. I'm just going to dip my fingers in and then go on around, because an uneven shape like this, say if it was a round cake with ganache, then we could just use a scraper by dipping that into the hot water to go around and scrape, right? But for an uneven shape like this, you can't be using scraper. You could use playing cards, or you could use a cut OHP sheet to go around, but I feel where a lot of creases are there, and then you just need to have much more detailing to soften up inside all the, the bends and the cuts. Using finger dipped in hot water is much more easier, for which the ganache has to set. So I'm just going to put this into the fridge is enough. You don't want it to be like become really very firm, so we're going to put it in the fridge, say for about half an hour, and then I will get back with a bowl of hot water to smoothen out the ganache. So the ganache is firm now, it's not sticking to my hands, okay, and that's a bowl of hot water. It's like quite hot, but it's going to get cold as I keep working. So I'm just going to dip my fingers, then just go on. I'm also going to keep the bowl of ganache now. If there are bumps, then we could just smoothen it out, but if there are dents, then we need more ganache the dents. So I have the bowl of the ganache here, okay, so which is nothing but the same ganache in the same consistency, but then my fingers are going to be warm, okay. So I'm just going to add it here and just go dip fingers in hot water and just smooth it out. So put pressure over the dents, so you can avoid adding more ganache, just in case you don't want extra ganache, adding more bulk. Just press it down. So I'm just making sure I'm not rounding up the hands with the body. Here we had just given a dent there, just not forgetting that detailing was there, just making sure that The ganache is also smoothed out, keeping that dent in mind. The moment you feel that the fingers are not warm anymore, you just need to get back into the bowl of water. And also, if by this time, if the bowl of water is kind of not warm enough, then you could just pop that bowl of water in the microwave. And then once it is warm, then you can just continue. So I've just done one round of smoothing all over. Okay, so in places like this, you can just add in a bit more ganache here. So you don't want to feel the back of the head is kind of really dented inside. So I'm just trying to add a little bit of bulk. So that bulk at the back of the head could be from ganache, or it could also be from cake pops. But then like a thinner layer of bulk can just be done with a layer of ganache, like a thick layer of ganache. But if you need like quite a bit of bulk, then even at this stage you could go on and then add cake pop as the bulk, and then on top of that again you just need to add ganache. So only on top of ganache it is ideal to have the coat of fondant, because only the ganache you can kind of get it as smooth as you want, because now any small dents the fondant will show through. But then for this doll, obviously we are going to give in textures, but it won't be also like really good if we are having too many bumps, and we don't want that imperfection to show. Rather, we want to create the textures on a sheet of on a fondant that's rolled on top of this, which is quite smooth. So we have control over what is the kind of texture that we want to give, instead of having the ganache very uneven and that will lead to fondant being very uneven. And then on top of that, we need to kind of compromise on the kind of texture that we want to give. Okay, so now this is one round of smoothing with a finger. I'm just going to go ahead and do another layer, which is like setting this in the refrigerator, and I'm going to use the same process, and then I'll get back with a super smooth finish ganache, on top of which we'll be ready to do the fondant draping. So on top of another finishing, which is like setting this in the fridge and using the same technique with warm water, um, touching and then going ahead with the finger to just get rid of any small kind of bumps that you see, and that needs to set in the room temperature for some time until you have the ganache really very dry. So we could just go ahead and then drape on top of that, or even a refrigeration for about half an hour to about an hour should be fine. So there will be a little bit of condensation, but that's okay because it is going to be quite firm, and so it will allow us to do the draping. So let me set this, smooth it one more time with warm water and then doing it with the fingers. Rest that for about an hour in the refrigerator, and then I'll get back when I'm ready to clean all this and then start with the fondant draping the doll.